You are now checking out the Win Podcast, where the everyday people are the celebrities. So let's get to know them.
Hi guys, I'm Adelina Rose. Check me out on the Win Podcast. So I am a poet, a writer. I'm a mom.
I love that you said that though.
Yes. I'm also in management as well in my company. So I work in the medical industry. So, a lot of juggling.
Now, the last name, is your name Rose?
No.
That's something I want to get into that.
Yes.
I want to know, because I'm like, Facebook says something else,
Yes.
but I'm like, how did that name become the name, and what does that mean to you, Adelina Rose?
So I've met a lot of people through social media.
Mm-hmm.
I met you through social media.
Yeah.
I ended up meeting a group of women.
Mm-hmm.
We went to a retreat, wellness, yoga, and writing retreat in the Dominican Republic. And so that was dope. It was interesting how social media worked it out. But I went and I met with a group of about 13 strangers. 13 women, complete strangers. We stayed for a long weekend in a house in the Dominican Republic.
You didn't know these people
Didn't know
at all.
anybody.
It was like, whatever, I'm going to book a flight, and I'm going to go to this retreat, and hopefully come back alive.
Yep,
Which
pretty
you
much.
did.
I'm here. So, yeah. And one night we were all sitting around the table, no internet, no Wi-Fi, nothing. So we're sitting around the table. We had just finished eating, and we were talking about middle names. So we were just joking around, talking about middle names. And, when it got to my turn on the table, I was like, well, I don't have a middle name.
Nice.
And so they started giving me names, and Rose clicked. And
Someone just came out and was like,
Yeah.
you look like a Rose. Your middle name should be Rose.
Yes, and
it
it clicked, and everyone the rest of the trip, Adelina Rose, and it stuck.
Now, when I think about like a rose, not only like, it's beautiful and stuff like that, but I think of like, I think about the process of the rose becoming a rose. Is that kind of like almost symbolism you feel to your life?
For sure. And just, growing, budding, and also a rose has thorns too, so there's multiple levels to that.
I want to know, how did you get into... I feel like writing and then poetry is like two different things. I feel, and for me, so I want to dive into like, how did you get into the writing aspect? Like, what was that part of your life where maybe things were probably going wrong, or maybe it was going right, and you was like, you know what, I just need to sit down with this piece of paper and this pen?
So I've always written, and when I was younger, probably my teens, that's how I would deal with any situation that would come up. So mostly journaling and poetry, and I, stepped away from writing for a long time. Came back to it.
Why did you stop?
So I went through trauma. As a female, dating when I was younger. And so that trauma brought me to writing. And I made a piece about rape. And with that piece, I brought it into school. No one knew about what had happened to me. And I read this piece, and the teacher at the time kind of figured what it was about. And, it became a whole ordeal, bringing my mom down to the school. And for me, it just became the scary thing. I associated, having my truth out in the world when I wasn't ready yet to like my writing.
Gotcha.
So I stepped away from it.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But like, really, because that's very powerful of you and very courageous of you. And that's something that I admire in your writing, is that the bravery that you take to share, whether you feel like you're not ready right now to share it, but you're going to share it, and you're like, whatever, I'm just going to throw it out there, and that's it. And that takes a lot of courage on many levels. So I honor you for that.
Thank you.
So I want to know, like, I find it what did you feel when you was writing, right? Because there's two stages of when you was writing, and you got into it and it was helping you, and then you just stepped away from it. So I want to know, what was the feeling you was getting when you was actually letting it go and just writing?
I think it's just kind of, you get to a point where you start understanding yourself, right? So putting things down on paper just makes things clear for me. Going through the process and like starting in point A and ending up somewhere in like Missouri, right? Like in the middle of nowhere. And so that's definitely one of the things that, sorry.
No.
So, I think just getting to an understanding of myself.
Now what happened when you stopped writing? Now for me, I know when I stopped like writing, I feel like almost suffocated in a sense. And I always find like, I'm always interested to hear like when people actually use this as something like that helps them, when they step away, it's kind of like there's a trigger of something else that also happens. So like what was happening for you in that moment? You was like, I need a break, or I'm just gonna stop.
Yeah, I think I found other things that I loved. I found things that I enjoyed. I joined the softball team. I started working. I was young. I got to do like after schools and summer camps. And so I kept myself busy with other things that still brought me joy.
Okay.
So
what was what did you feel that what was writing bringing to you in that moment when you was in those days? Alone in your room and just writing, what was the lessons that you was learning from your poetry?
Before I stopped writing?
When you started writing.
Okay.
Let's go back to when you actually was like almost like, I don't know, every week or every day writing, like what was some of these lessons now when you think about it, what were some lessons you was actually learning through your writing?
To honor my voice. To be myself on the paper. No one's judging me, right? It's just me and my notebook. So I could be and say and do whatever I want in that moment. And there's a lot of freedom in that.
How did you feel the moment, because I read in your bio, which I love, that your writing is like a sancocho. And I know with the sancocho, it has like so many different layers.
Yes.
Of like, it has like all these different vegetables, the meats and stuff like that. I want to know like, how did you come? I thought that was brilliant. How did you come up with that, and like what? Explain that, like in your own words. Like,
so for me, that came through the process of writing more and coming back to writing, and finding my voice. Because when I came back to writing, I felt like I was writing a lot about the things that I read too, and I felt like I sounded not like myself. And so going back into writing and getting to know myself again, and getting to understand my voice. And, who I truly am, and showing that on the paper, not just like this voice that I think I should be.
Right.
It's a mix of things. It's a mix of me being a mom. It's a mix of me being, the type of person I am, being sensitive, being, someone who has no filter, and all those things coming together. And also just my background being Dominican. And so all those things together, make my writing what it is.
When did you finally, we always like learning and growing in life. When was a moment when you started to, I guess, not listen to the world, right? And all these things telling you to be this way. When did you start realizing, oh shit, like this is Adelina? Like what phase you would say?
I would say when I came back to my writing, I still didn't know who I was as a writer. But through practicing, through writing frequently, making time for writing. And then also just a lot of programs that I ended up going to. I went to a writing residency for a week. And that was my focus there, just like finding my voice and who I am on the paper without anybody else.
What was that?
I went to VONA in 2017, and it's Voices of Our Nations. It is a program for writers of color. And so specifically, they have workshops, and then they have residencies. I was admitted to the residency program for poetry for a week. We would workshop in the morning, and then we would do one-on-ones with the poet who would teach us throughout that week. And my main focus there, we came in and we let them know what we were looking to do with our writing, with the pieces that we had submitted. And we were able to work on that, and we were given tools that really helped us develop it. And it helped me develop
what were some of those tools like that helped you to find and develop?
Well, you don't realize how everything in your life you see through a lens, right? And so my lens is completely different from your lens, right? And so noticing those everyday things, and that was one of the tools, just observing your environment. So doing that and getting that and like realizing how much of a lens I have. So how my experiences are different, how, going to Dominican Republic when I was young, and experiencing things there, how someone here growing up in the States might not have ever seen anything that I've seen out there. And then taking those everyday things and bringing that to my work as well.
Was it uncomfortable to look at your life in that lens? Like for me, the lens resembles like one of the lessons that I learned from my spiritual teacher, Guru Enlightenment, like facing yourself in the mirror and taking responsibility. And I know when I was writing my own pieces and my own show, it was like uncomfortable to face those certain things. So when you had that tool, the teacher was like, here's a lens, now let's look through your life. How did you feel in those things?
Of course, uncomfortable. I think you become uncomfortable. There's fear. There's you know that there's more underneath it, and so being afraid to get to what's underneath, and still doing it anyways. You start getting to the bottom of things. But yeah, for sure, uncomfortable. You start realizing different things about yourself, about your writing, about your craft. And you start learning also the things that hold you back.
Gotcha. What was something, if you don't mind sharing, what was something that you saw that was holding you back that that eventually you overcame it?
In terms of overcoming, I don't know that I've overcome it, but I think self-love and I think that's a process though. I don't think that there's always growth in that, self-love and self-care. So being able to start paying attention to what I needed, and being able to see when I wasn't giving myself what I needed, and knowing that things that I need to come from me and not from other people. But that's a daily,
say it again,
right?
girl, for the people on the back.
For sure. So I think it's a constant though, you're always finding ways to love yourself and care for yourself, and what you need to love yourself and to care for yourself changes.
I remember there was a point where I was telling you should perform your piece, your piece. And of course everybody will always have anxiety or type of fear of that, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I want you to share basically your first time performing. So take us down that road of because prior to that, you never shared vocally your stuff, correct?
Yeah.
Just put it out there.
Well, I shared it when back in high school.
Okay, and then there was this time gap of you not saying anything to anybody, just putting it out there. So I want to know take us through the journey of you saying, all right, I'm going to perform, and take us down that road when you're selecting the piece, and then probably 5 minutes before you're about to perform. I want to know, because I always find that amazing. Because even as a performer as well, there's shit that happens behind the scenes, and us leading up to that date, you're like, holy shit, this is about to happen. So
I think I caught a break. So my first performance was actually at this program, and everyone was performing. So it didn't feel
nerve-wracking.
It's still nerve-wracking. It's still for sure. But it was like we're all a mess. We're all nervous about this. So we can all be nervous together.
Up, so
it's okay. It's all right. We're not alone. So who's going first? You going first, right? Yeah. So that's what it was, and. For sure, in terms of selecting my piece, I had been working on my piece the entire week, and even before the week. So we submitted pieces before going into the program. So I had written this piece about 2 years before.
Yeah. What was the piece about?
It's called Corner Stores with No Walls.
Okay.
And it's just about my body.
Okay.
And how men may perceive it. And so. I took that piece and we were able to record. The program was at the University of Pennsylvania, so I was able to record my piece and archive it there at the Kelly Writer's House.
Nice.
And so I had read it out loud once before, and I think also practicing beforehand definitely helped. and having all these other nervous people around me performing as well.
What did you get from it? Like when you was about to go in that moment now and they called your name or whatever, I was like, oh, she fucked up like us. Like, yeah, we're gonna hear some shit now. Like, what did you get from that moment? And was it a difference between actually writing it and now saying it?
I would say it was nerve-wracking, but also exhilarating. Being able to speak and to have my voice heard. Like the room was quiet. You could hear anything drop, like any sigh, anything you could hear. The room being that silent and actually knowing people were listening. There's no one sitting in the crowd being rude, talking. Everyone was listening, and it was amazing.
Did that make you uncomfortable when it was like super? Like while you was, did you still notice the people that was there when you was finally saying your piece? Did anyone exist there, or
no,
was just...
no one existed. It was me and the poem. And
how'd you feel afterwards once you?
Great. One, I think relief. I did it. I got it done. I was proud. But also just like I said what I needed to say, and it's out in the world. So definitely. Is
that something that you continue to do, or that was like one and done?
I've performed a few times since.
Nice.
I've performed with Dope Poetry. So I have a friend who does spoken word out in the city. He does like nights, at a bar, and we do spoken word. And then I also joined with Palante Mi Gente. I did that over the winter. And they were doing they were raising money for Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And so I joined them as well, also through a friend who connected me. So
yeah, I'm gonna give you a light clap for that because the mics, but that's amazing. That's dope. And I want to know, and you can take your time to answer this. What made you continue on to build and build and build? And what I mean by that, when I met you, you was already writing and stuff like that, but you was at a stage, right, where you was going to now take it to different levels. And I want to know, because hearing this, like, one, I'm very proud of you, because the shit that I'm hearing is you keep on taking it to the next level, to the next level, to the next level within yourself. I want to know why. What is the motivation behind it, right? Because you went from, I want to write, and you've been writing it. Then you went from, let me try to perform. That's another level. That's a fear thing that motivates you, and you did it. Now you're telling me, I joined this, I joined that. I kept on performing. I got a show at the Garden next week and stuff. So I'm like, yo, to me, that's beautiful to hear. And I want to know, what pushes you? What is the motivation to keep on performing your work, writing your work? Now, letting everyone hear your work, where it was just for you in the room.
Yeah.
It still is, but now there's a different avenue now. Now you're going everywhere.
I would say there are multiple things for that. So in one regard, it's about getting my work into the universe, but also about teaching my daughter that she could do what she wants to do, whatever that is. And so for her to see me writing and doing things with my writing and continue to build is motivating in itself. And for her to be able to know, hey, my mom writes poetry. Hey, she's artistic. She loves art. And so being able to see that I can do it lets her know that she can do it. So that's definitely one aspect of it. Another aspect is I want my writing to do something in the world. Whether it touches one person, that's enough for me. If it touches more, great. But if it touches one person, that's enough for me. And also just in the literary world, you don't hear the voices of people of color as often. In schools, the books that we're reading, they're not necessarily by people of color. There's very few. So I think just having our voices heard and being able to see ourselves, right? See ourselves in literature, see ourselves in poetry is super important to me.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And one thing I want to touch on is funny because I have a question about that, is that you're a mother to a beautiful daughter, and you kind of like touched on the question that I had, but I want to dive deeper into that. does she influence your art and like what you write and what you do, and do you learn from her as well?
Oh, for sure. 110%. Kids can test your patience.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that definitely is something I've written about. But also, being a parent is scary. And having your heart outside of your body running around in the world is scary. And so I've written poems about her. But also, she motivates me. She is the reason that I do everything that I do, whether that's, working or writing. She's definitely a major influence. But like I said earlier, showing her that she can do the things that she wants to do, having that additional support. Because growing up, I got that support from my mother, but from the rest of my family, not so much. My grandparents were old school, so they're like, writing, what is writing going to do for you? What's your real job? And so showing her that, no, if you want to be an artist, you can make it work for yourself. You want to be, a painter, go for it. Paint, do what you want to do, and trust and believe that if you work hard, you're going to get to where you need to get.
And also to add to that, the cherry on top, you are proof of that. So as you continue on in doing that, whether you realize it or not, she's looking up to you. Yeah. And you're showing her that through it all, mommy still can do whatever I'm telling you is because mommy's doing it. Yeah. And the kids not only learn from like what you're saying, but they learn more by the actions.
Of course.
So, like clap for that too, for you. I like there was a part where also read in your bio that you said that you write to see yourself.
Yes.
Which you this shit, and you gotta check out the bio. So check out her bio. I'll put all the link in there because she wrote some shit that was dope. One is on culture stuff, and the other one was you write to see yourself, and I relate to that so much because as I was work on these one man shows, it's like when you write, you can't lie to yourself. I feel there is, like the mirror, when you're writing, there is a reflection of you that you start to face that you're like, you know what, let me not bullshit myself. But if I am, when you're looking at it, it's like, that's a lie.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I want to know basically, when you wrote that, where were you coming from? So when you actually wrote, you write to see yourself, I want to know how that came out. Because these things, like the Sancocho one was great. Where were you when you was writing that? Like, holy shit, I write to see myself.
It was after my program, going in and being kind of unsure of what my voice was. Like knowing, like, okay, I have a voice, and knowing, like, okay, that's me. I recognize this is me on paper, but this other part isn't me. I feel like writing is just a discovery of yourself, right? You put down on paper and you start to get to know what's real and what's not, and the paper won't lie to you. You'll see it there. And so I think going into it, I started getting to know myself through my writing, and really seeing, okay, underneath it all, underneath everything, this is who I am. I start writing, and I'm actually doing a practice now where I'm trying to fill up a notebook a month. And as you do, just writing straight through until, 5 minutes until I stop. I start writing, and if you write without stopping, you're going to see shit comes up, and you start seeing it, and you start uncovering it, and really going deeper and deeper into it. So I think, you start finding yourself.
Do you mentioned that your daughter is artistic as well. She writes, or what is her?
No,
artistic?
She likes to draw. She likes to paint. She likes to put things together. Nice. And so we actually went to 29 Rooms this weekend. That was dope. Refinery 29 had 29 rooms, and it was.
They rented it out?
No, it was a big warehouse.
Like a kitchen and something?
Big warehouse. I know, right? Big warehouse, and every artist got a room, and they were able to. Yeah, it was dope. So I took her to that. She loved it. But just teaching her that art is, can be different. It doesn't have to be, this sheet of paper and fill it up. Like, this room can be art, whatever you want can be art, and just expanding her horizons with that.
That's amazing. Well, you basically, we're gonna this part of the show, I have different segments. Now, the beginning of it was getting to know you, your writing, in your journey, and you definitely shared so much on that. So I want to thank you for that. So one of the first segments that we go on is called Peekaboo. And it's about, the first question is, part of that segment is, what do you hide from the world?
That's a big one.
Yeah. Like for instance, it usually stumbles people sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not asking for like the deepest secret, right? So for me, like, which I always use this example to help people out. I use one thing that I hide from the world is my pain, and what I mean by that is when I'm going through some stuff, or if I'm like, if I'm in a phase where I'm like need my time or whatever, I'm not showing the world that, right? I'm hiding my pain. And eventually, once I learn everything I have to learn from it and I write it down, then I'm ready to share and I put it out there. So that's one example for me that, like, what do I hide from the world?
I can relate definitely on the pain aspect.
But don't take my answer.
I'm not going to take your answer. But I think I hide my trauma. So anything that I've dealt with, whether it's death or, sexual abuse, physical abuse, whatever the case may be, I hide that. And I hide that behind a shell of, making everyone else comfortable, making everyone else laugh. And it doesn't come out until I'm really in front of the paper and I'm facing myself.
Nice. Now, what do you show the world?
I would say I show joy. I show joy. And I think it's because I want to spread more joy. I want to spread more happiness. But at the same time, I think my writing has really been a force to show that you can have joy in your life, but you also have to face those demons and those, those other things that you might have, that pain, that trauma.
Nice. Second segment is if you would die tomorrow. So if you would die tomorrow at 3 p.m., what would you like to accomplish? Now this, don't worry about like the details of how am I going to do that? I only have like 10 hours. Like whatever it is, it'll be done, it'll be completed, or whatever you want to do. So if you're going to die tomorrow at 3 p.m., you knew that, what is something you would try to accomplish?
Oof, that one's a hard one.
Take your time.
What would I want to accomplish?
And it could be a mixture of things, right? Because I'm not telling you only one thing. It could be a mixture of a couple of things.
Okay. I would like to travel with my daughter to the Dominican Republic. And I would like to publish my book. And I'd like to see my family happy. Leave it there.
You're going to make it happen. Real quick, you keep on mentioning the Dominican Republic. You have a connection to the Dominican Republic. Of course, you came from there. But I want to know what the Dominican Republic means to you. Because as we move forward, I've been noticing it coming up. And I think that's an awesome thing that there's a connection there. And I want to know, what's that journey for you? What is that connection to the Dominican Republic with you?
I think it's just a part of my identity, It's completely different than being here in New York. I grew up in New York, but, the cultural aspects, the food, the people, going there and being there feels like home. And I take a little bit of home with me everywhere I go. And so, it always comes up in my writing and in my daily life.
And I feel like, too, whatever the person from the outside looking in, I think correct me if I'm wrong, was the Dominican Republic a huge stepping stone for you in your art? Because you went there for the retreat, if I'm correct. So I think not only that, it's like a home, but it was a huge, I guess, one of those huge monumental moments for you that it would never leave you, because you remember that it was maybe a start or maybe a huge leap of something when you went there for the retreat.
I think the Dominican Republic has a lot of important things for me. So yes, the retreat, when my grandfather passed away, we took him to the Dominican Republic. He's like a father to me. So he's out there, he's buried out there. My grandmother's out there. My uncle, I have family out there still. So I think that there's a lot, but also I got to know myself growing up. While I would go over there for summers, we'd be sent out for the summer. Mom would ship us out.
Nice.
And spending the summers out there with my cousins, getting to know myself without my mom there, and really being able to see myself and who I was.
It's like when it's your home at the end of the day. And I would recommend that, like, if anything, like, if you're ever, like, in a phase of life where you're, like, questioning a lot of things, I feel like you should always go there. Yeah.
Yep.
To, like, rebuild yourself, like, on some Rocky shit. Like, you were saying, like, and remember all the lessons that you had, that you made there.
For sure.
So moving forward, our third segment of the show is called Words from My Spiritual Teacher, Guru Enlightenment. Everyone knows that I always share in everything I do. She's my spiritual teacher. She taught me a lot of things in my life, and all her information will be on the description. She teaches spirituality. She does workshops. She teaches you basically, the tools that you already have inside of you and bring it out of you, and teach you to believe in yourself and that you have a purpose, and that, get your shit together. And, say everybody has a fucked up thing. Life is fucked up, but don't let that be what's going to hold you back. You are born with all these beautiful gifts, and you can become anything that you want to become, and you do have a purpose. So I'm always sharing that, and she's also an author. And the purpose of this segment is to share some of her writings and bring awareness to the people that are looking out there. What is spirituality? There are many forms of it. And to me, when I connected to her, the spirituality that she was teaching me was real, it was honest, it was me. And of course, all the description, all her information will be in the description of the website and also on the Win Podcast and SoundCloud. So this writing comes from her website and is called Connect. There is a connection to the light, to the sky, to the moon, and to the stars. One of the things that is important and which we have forgotten is that we are the universe, because we carry the universe inside of us. The gift has been given to all of us, and it is the part which makes you strong and powerful. Society makes everything about the world out there because that's what they want. In reality, you have always been the universe and powerful within yourself. So I want to know, how did you feel about that after hearing that?
It's definitely something I believe in. I wouldn't say I'm super religious, but I am very spiritual. Mm-hmm. And I do think that we're all connected in so many different ways. And, what we do affects our energy, all of that, it's all spirit, it's all the universe, and what we put out there is what we can get back as well. So definitely agree with that.
What I really enjoy about that, and what she's been teaching me and all her students, is that that letting us know how powerful that the universe is and stuff like that. But she's, as a reminder, it's like that's powerful, but remember the universe is also in you. And to be careful what you put out there sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Because in that universe is positive and there's also negative, where the world is going. You look out on the news or whatever it is, you see for yourself how the world is turning dark. So put it to yourself, and that you're just as powerful as that universe that you came from. And always remember that, and don't forget that. So look up to the moon, look up to the stars. We come from those positive energies. So don't forget that everything within you is already in there and is very powerful. That's pretty much it. That's the ending of the Win podcast. I just want to share with you, Adelina, before I do like where they can see you, stuff like that, that I'm super proud of you. Super proud of you. Thank you for coming today, sharing the things that you were sharing. You didn't have to. And to me, it was inspiring to hear your story. Some things I knew, there's a lot of things I didn't know. And for me, that was a beautiful gift that you shared with us today, and whoever is listening was in for a treat as well. And I'm super proud of you, and I want you to keep on going. I want you to keep on writing and keep on performing, and let writing and your daughter teach you everything that you need to learn from.
Thank you.
Where can people, I'm going to put in the description too, but where can people follow you on IG or look at your website or stuff like that? Or if you just want to say your website, you can say your website as well.
My website is adelina-rose.com. There is a link on there to my blog as well. There's not a lot up there, but there's some stuff. I am on Instagram as well.
Nice.
I am under Adelina Rose, as well as Adelina Rose Poetry. So.
Nice. Once again, thank you everybody for checking out another episode of the Win Podcast. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, Instagram, at the Win Podcast. And any information you want to check out, just look at the description box and all the information is there. So thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed another episode. Peace.